Hey everyone, I updated my Patreon page and added new rewards. First of all, everyone who pledges to me will be added to my Patreon exclusive Discord server in case you want to chat with me. Besides that, you can now also request me to review cartoon episodes, movies or even entire seasons. Check out the link in the description or at the end of this video if you want to support me. It's highly appreciated. You know, sometime last year I started to pay more attention to Netflix cartoons. The more noteworthy are probably She-Ra, Dragon Prince, Voltron, still haven't seen the final season of that show, but apparently it sucks, Disenchantment, and BoJack Horseman. But if you were to ask me what my favorite Netflix original cartoon so far is, I would answer probably BoJack Horseman. But if you want something less cynical and depressing, I would recommend to check out Hilda. Hilda is the animated adaptation of the British comic series of the same name. I haven't actually read the comics, but after watching the show I kinda want to, so that's something. The show was released back in September of 2018 and a second season is planned for 2020, which kinda sucks because I want a second season now. As you might have guessed, this show is about a girl named Hilda who grew up living in the woods with her mom. The woods are full of mystical and magical creatures, which doesn't appear to be a secret but a well-known fact in the show. However, after the first 2 episodes, Hilda and her mom moved to Trollberg, a city that built up a wall to keep trolls and other creatures out of the city. But then the day came that mankind received a grim reminder. They lived in fear of the Titans and were disgraced to live in these cages they called wards. Oops, wrong script. Sorry about that. This show is a bit different. Now, generally speaking, Hilda is a bit reminiscent of Gravity Falls, mostly for all the kids are dealing with mystical creature stuff. Well, and some jokes are rather similar. These, however, are a bit far and few in between. Sure, Hilda has plenty of funny moments, but I wouldn't exactly call it a comedy. The plot takes itself usually rather serious and the show is overall rather sober. Rarely is anything actually ridiculed. This show also isn't exactly about a grand story either. There isn't much of an ongoing storyline between episodes or mystery to solve. There's some continuity between the episodes and some light foreshadowing here and there, but nothing really major. Every episode simply deals with a different oddity and a bit with Hilda's struggle to fit into the more ordinary world of Trollberg when she is used to the extraordinary. A small exception to this are the first 2 episodes that are basically a 2-parter and the last 2, which is not that surprising considering that it is basically the season finale. It is rather understandable that they wanted to do something bigger for that one. In general, I think it would have been more interesting to focus on Hilda's life in the woods rather than to let her move to Trollberg, but I get the intention. It allows for a fish out of water story, highlighting Hilda's social awkwardness, and allows her to make some friends beside her dear fox Strick and Alfu, the elf. What's wrong with the script today? These 2 characters have nothing in common besides being elves. In any case, it's not that they don't leave the town at all during the show, and there's enough weird stuff going on that it is still entertaining, so it's not as limiting as it might appear. And now let's talk about the characters. This show is called Hilda and it's all about her. The other characters feel a bit underdeveloped in comparison, but since she is framed as the sole main character, I don't see much of a problem with that, as the rest is basically just her supporting cast with a varying degree of importance, and for the most part I like them well enough. It certainly helps that Hilda is simply precious, being the weird girl that is all about the fantastical stuff and not liking the city. Always helpful and willing to stand up for her mistakes. She needs protection. Sadly, I think especially her 2 human friends are kinda bland. For one, there's David, who is mostly defined by the fact that he is afraid of pretty much everything but still takes along with Hilda all the time, and then there's Frida. Yeah, Frida kinda sucks. I mean, she started out as a well-enough supporting character, being a perfectionist and all, which made her mildly amusing, but that sorta got derailed later on when it turns out that she always relied on some ghost cleaning up her room, freaking out when the ghost stops doing that, and her favorite book goes missing. Up to this point it is still a rather funny episode, but then we get to the end. They fail to retrieve the book and suddenly Frida is angry at Hilda because she promised that she would get her book back when Hilda did pretty much everything she could to do so. This kinda ends their friendship. Okay, sure, they finally reconcile at the end of the season, but not before she almost joins that weird teenage witch cult that traumatized David a couple of episodes earlier. Like, what the hell is wrong with this girl? I get it, she is a child and I can chuck it up to her being childish, and sometimes children fight over stupid reasons and so on. But really, this is perhaps the worst case of a mandatory friendship failure I have seen in a while. Now okay, this is the one thing I disliked about the series, and now that they dealt with this nonsense, it probably won't be a problem in the future. In general, there's simply way more stuff to love. The lovely art style, the beautiful looking backgrounds, the fluid animation, and of course the abundance of creative creatures Hilda meets throughout the series. For example, I just kinda love the elves in the shows that are all about bureaucracy, and you can't even see the little man unless you sign a contract. Which is of course rather bothersome, as they antagonize Hilda and her mother because those two terrorized the elves unknowingly because they couldn't see them. Also, Alpha is a pretty welcome addition to the cast, and I appreciate that he sticks around for the entire series. And we meet a bunch of other fascinating creatures, one more fascinating than the last. Though most of them aren't exactly evil, except those teenagers apparently. And one interesting thing is how Hilda always deals with them, always wanting to help them. And this is what makes the show so pleasant to watch. It's kinda innocent, though it does have its darker moments, for sure, but there seems to be no intention to go full cerebral syndrome with the show. Well, this is of course a bit hard to say without knowing the source material. As I mentioned earlier, the show is based on a series of graphic novels. So far there have been 5 released, and the 6th one is supposed to be released sometime later this year. Looking at the titles of the individual graphic novels, it appears that the first 4 comics make up about half of the episodes, so I suppose it's not that surprising that there isn't a season 2 yet, considering that they either have to wait for new comics to adapt or to start making stuff up on their own, and if Game of Thrones taught me anything, then this is not exactly a good idea. It also appears like the upcoming 6th comic, Hilda and the Mountain King, will be overall somewhat darker and have higher stakes. Actually, now that I look at it, I really want to check out these comics. If general interest is big enough, I might consider to do videos on them. And with that being said, let's wrap things up. Hilda is just a fabulous show full of charm. The biggest issue I have with the show lies within the supporting cast, and this might be the result of them not actually playing a particular big role in the comics this show is based on. But Hilda herself more than makes up for it by being a very fun and precious little girl. Also Twig, I mean, he is a deer fox, guys. A deer fox. How could I not love him? Besides that, the show is just quirky and full of imagination, so I would recommend to check it out. Especially if you still have a Gravity Falls shaped hole in your heart. Even if Hilda doesn't cover all the bases of that show. I just can't wait for season 2. But what about you? Did you watch Hilda? Did you like it? Did you read the comics? Let me know in the comments below. I am Tricky Fox. Stay foxy.
Sly as a fox, you got me under your spell. But you know I'll never tell that I know you know so well. Sometimes you can be too smart for your